The Turn On Your Inner Light Show. It's time to stop just surviving, and it's time to begin to thrive. It's time to live happier and healthier. Turn stress into strength. Noted author Debbie Mandel will show you how to move beyond personal doubts and fears and into positive perception to turn on your inner light. Here's your host, Debbie Mandel.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my show. Our guest expert, Dianne Collins, coaches executives, celebrities, and she is the author of Do You QuantumThink? Learn how to expand your thinking to see the infinite possibilities. What's holding you back? Welcome, Dianne.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I'm delighted to be with you.
Now, what is quantum thinking?
Well, we've all heard from everyone from the masters of all wisdom traditions to the leading-edge scientists today, quantum scientists who study the nature of how do things work on the planet here for us as human beings. And they all say the same thing. As you think, so you become. And what we don't realize is that our habits of thinking affect not only our state moment by moment, and I know you talk about reframing in your work, but just imagine if you could reframe the whole basis from which you think. That's what quantum think is. It's a system of thinking that puts together everything that people are interested in, of late. We know we have to think in a new way, but what is new thinking? Is it just a new idea? No. It's putting together all the dimensionality of life. A little, we have a little spiritual wisdom here, a little energy healing here, a little bit of, tips and techniques over here. How does it all fit together? And what Quantum Think does is in 21 principles, it really expands the whole basis from which we think so that we can finally begin to integrate all the good wisdom that's out there. But if you cannot master your own mind, none of it really makes a huge difference.
Now, let me ask you this. You say it's a new way of thinking, but you quote a lot of ancient sources. So what's new?
Right. That's it, right? That's the paradox of it, is that when I say new, it really is in a sense, as you're saying, it's ageless. Because when you think about what is wisdom, what I see out there is when I was growing up, I see the disconnect, Debbie, between, we have all this wisdom, as I say, 6,000 years of wisdom available at the touch of an iPhone. How come we're still not living it as a humanity? We have the divisiveness, we have all this conflict and war and all of the things that we've institutionalized that really don't really need to exist on the planet if we're really at choice. So what I discovered is that we're really not at choice. If as you think, so you become, your thinking habits are giving you your outcomes in life as well as your experiences, and it's all related, then we imagine we're choosing our thoughts. But our thinking is really conditioned by the way we view reality as a whole. So our whole orientation is around the physical five senses. In the physical world, we look separate. Therefore, we're judging, we're evaluating. We don't like you because you're a different color, a different religion. But what's new? As you say, so what's new? Mm-hmm. Well, what's new is to be able to make the leap, a literal quantum leap in consciousness, in mind, and expand our framework for thinking so that we realize that we don't end at the edge of our body, of our skin. Our mind is not synonymous with the brain. The brain is a register of consciousness, of thinking, of mind, but it's not synonymous with it. But we imagine it is, even a lot of scientists today, because we're whole-oriented around the physical world. So what's new is to start to take these other faculties of mind seriously that we're not taught in traditional education. The power of intent, the power of our intuition, the ability to go into what looks like, an invisible field. It looks like a science fiction movie, but this is the fact of life, is that we are constantly exchanging with intelligent energy fields around us, and we really need to learn how to use the faculties of our own mind, and this is what my book is all about. Make it easy and fun to do it.
Yes, it is fun. I like the sources and the poems and using poets as proof. I mean, that works for me. I live in my own little world anyway. You write that I think the goal is to live more fully and multidimensionally. Is this a case for multitasking?
Well, it's different than multitasking, and that's an excellent question, Debbie. And because multitasking is doing distinct actions, but simultaneously, right? Is that how you would define multitasking? Living multidimensionally is doing one action and having many results. For example, one time I had a client who was a nurse, and it was right at the beginning of the Internet, and she wanted to learn the Internet. She needed to look up, research to advance her career in nursing, and she also had a young 6-year-old son who she wanted to spend more time with. Excuse me, he wasn't 6, he was 8. And that's irrelevant.
Yes, I was wondering. Okay, that changes.
He knew how to use a computer. A 6-year-old, they know how to, but today. But this was a little bit while ago. So I said, okay, a multidimensional action is to ask her son to research with her on the Internet. So simultaneously, she's taking it's kind of one action, but she's getting many results from it.
Now, how would that work if you were talking to me and I'm writing on the computer, and maybe while you put me on hold for a minute, I'm going to, sort my mail?
Well, that's multitasking, and this is really part of the fragmentation that we have in our minds today. Because
let's not multitask now. We're going to go to commercial break, and we will be back with Dianne Collins. Do You Quantum Think?
Now you can take Debbie Mandel home with you. Her book, Turn On Your Inner Light, Fitness for Body, Mind, and Soul, will help you decompress with healthy, positive, concrete solutions. Common life challenges are presented so that you can quickly find the help you need. Emotional tips, original meditations, and a fun and easy-to-follow fitness workout for each mindset. This revolutionary new method will help you rewire mind and body to take back your power. Get it on Amazon.
Are you overwhelmed with the burden of taking care of children, parents, or both? Are you taking care of everyone else except yourself? It's time to change your habits and re-energize. Debbie Mandel gives you an innovative and easy-to-follow program for good health and happiness. In her magical new book, Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, Debbie Mandel shows you step-by-step how to find the optimal balance between giving and receiving, and guides you to exercise and eat right to take care of yourself. What are you waiting for? Read Changing Habits and start training for your life. Life does not need to be a burden. Get Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, on Amazon.
You're listening to the Turn On Your Inner Light show. I'm your host, Debbie Mandel, and I'm speaking with Dianne Collins, author of Do You Quantum Think? Okay, so we've kind of looked a little bit at multitasking, and I guess we could multitask if it's using all the components that we have: soul, mind, body, and other dimensions. Now, you wrote something very interesting, that life is like watching a movie. So in a way, I'm participating and observing myself participate. Is that correct?
Yes.
But what if, let me just ask you this, but what if you're watching a horror movie? What if you're, I mean, I have to ask, I mean, some people.
No, I think this is exactly what I'm talking about. And you see, I like the example that you brought up before, but about the distinction between multitasking and living multidimensionally is that everybody knows we need to think in a new way. But what is it? It's not just having a new idea or trying to pile on a lot of actions to try to keep up with the increasing complexity and accelerated pace of the world today, not to mention, the uncertainty of it. So literally, we need to think in a different framework. So when you, instead of multitasking, which is trying to catch up with the old way of step-by-step, incremental way that we have been conditioned to think by a 17th century way of looking at the world, we're taking a leap and starting to think in a new framework.
You know, my favorite century was the 17th century, and especially John Donne, who merged science with poetry and wrote about ecstasy and a lot of what you're saying. I think the 17th century was a turning point.
Well, the 17th century
for this kind of thinking, actually, that you dismiss. I'm surprised.
Because it's paradoxical, because when you look at it, yes, and I'm familiar with John Donne, the 17th century was the beginning of rational science. And so there's nothing wrong with it. And, what we're doing right now is we're looking at a way of thinking that way taught us, because they said the universe is like a giant machine, and if you could break it down to all the parts and how they work, you could predict and control everything. So that gave us predict and control. It has to be either this way or that way. So right now we're even in an either or, but we can go to the quantum view of a world of both and.
But I would like to
that was good.
Yeah,
but I want to get to the horror movie.
I want to get to the
horror movie is very important.
Yeah, we have limited time, and okay. There's so much in the book, and I want to touch on something.
But you got to the heart of the matter here, because the core distinction of the quantum world, of quantum thinking and of quantum science, it's called the observer effect, and the biggest new revelation of science is that we're not separate from the objects out there like it looks in the physical world. We are always shaping what we see by what we bring to our observation. And by observation, I don't mean visually, I mean what we hold in our mind in any given moment. So I call it, what you bring is what you get. We're in an observer-created reality. So if you bring all your habits of thinking that have you experience life as a horror show, then that's going to shape everything you do.
Let me ask you this question right now. What do you do with the Holocaust, with Auschwitz? My father was in Auschwitz. I think he was a very sweet person, very loving, a scholar. He lived a horror movie, and I don't think it was about him shaping his world.
No,
I mean, what about women who were raped in Africa? A war is fought on their bodies. I mean, I could try to disassociate and think I'm, going to love my attacker, but I'm not.
No, and you bring up a good point, because what I'm talking about is what do we have absolute jurisdiction over? The way that we relate to the circumstances. We cannot control the circumstances, but we absolutely can master the way in which we're related to our circumstances. And that happens through the way that we think, through our ability to be the watcher, as you said, be the watcher of the movie, because only when you become aware of the way you're thinking can you have any choice in the way that you are related to those circumstances. So how do we relate to the Holocaust or a rape or anything else that's going on today? Is that, first of all, as you know, and I'm sure you've read a lot of the stories of or heard the Holocaust survivors, what did they do? Is they were able to literally create a way of relating to the circumstance of being in that situation that gave them the strength to actually get clear of it, get free of it.
Many of them, by the way, Dianne, my father included, wanted to die. But they couldn't. My father said sometimes you live against your will. And that's a quote from one of the sages as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
But if we had world enough in time, we could debate the Holocaust and evil in the world. But what I'm saying is that a lot of these things, they sound very good, and there's a lot of applicability, and I certainly wouldn't argue with you about mind, body, and spirit and associative thinking and having a free romp. But a lot of people are living horrible lives inflicted on them. And I think it's easier to write about this in the abstract, but then to really live like that and say, well, you can separate yourself sometimes when your body's ravaged with disease.
Well, this is the whole point of my book, is to go from, as you're saying, it's easy to know it. I hear all the tips and techniques. You should be happy. You should be this. You should be stress-free. And you can say that all day long. But what happens is it requires a literal leap to a new framework for thinking. Because when you do that, you cannot get there, as I say, you cannot see a new worldview from your current perspective. Because we're in a limited way of looking at the world.
But we have to limit ourselves further and go to commercial break. If we had world enough in time, Andrew Marvel. Do you quantum think? We will be back with Dianne Collins. Dear listeners, I'm excited to tell you about my new book, Addicted to Stress. This is a message you need to hear. Are you addicted to stress? Do you do it all while everyone depends on you? Where's all this pressure coming from? It is coming from inside you. This is why my publisher, John Wiley, asked me to write Addicted to Stress, a women's 7-step program to reclaim joy and spontaneity in life. This fun-to-read book teaches proven strategies to reclaim your life, silence your inner critic, build a healthy body, and reframe your thoughts to change your life for the better. Dare to be happy without the guilt. Addicted to Stress is easy to get. It's available at Barnes & Noble and other fine bookstores everywhere. You can also buy it at Amazon and other online retailers. We're back with Dianne Collins, author of Do You QuantumThink, and we're having a great romp, as befits the book. We're going through the centuries, we're going through cataclysms and to the heights of the spirit. But because we are time constrained, not in reality, because we quantum think, but we are time constrained because of this show. I want to ask you, you wrote that the brain is in your heart, and you've used the heart math program, but some scientists feel the brain is in your gut. How do you reconcile that?
Well, when I don't say the brain is in your heart. What I'm saying is that some researchers consider the heart as the fifth part of the brain, because it's 60% neurons, which are brain cells. But
they say there are more neurons in the gut, that it has more serotonin receptors than even the brain, and they say that. So is there room for that in our...
Absolutely, okay. Because you see, the quantum think is 21 principles. It's not at all theoretical, which you were, saying before, oh, this sounds all good in the abstract. It's distinctions in thinking and practices for the mind and awareness that integrate it in your daily life so that it's totally practical in modern life. It's not a tip and technique. It's a whole system. So the very first distinction, the first principle, is that we're living in a holistic and holographic universe. Now, holistic, people know the word. They think it means an alternative health thing. But no, that's not what it means. It means that the body is a holographic body. The whole of it is contained in every aspect of it. So you'll start to hear more and more how the mind is in every cell of the body. And of course, holistic means it's all interconnected and affecting every part is affecting every other part. But the old way of thinking, the rational science thinking, has shaped medicine to look at the body as parts that fit together. They said the universe was parts that fit together. So this is how it adapts without even knowing it into our thinking. And we start to see our life in separate parts, business and personal. And then you start to, as I said before, pile on and try to fit everything in. So in just looking at the body as a holistic system, as a holographic system, the holographic brain theory is that if you interrupt and open up a new brain pattern, connection, neuronal connection, that it doesn't just affect one area, it's a whole brain effect. It's a field effect. We exist in fields. You walk into a room, and one side of the room is, a bunch of people arguing. The other side of the room, everybody is harmonious, they're having fun, they're laughing. What do you see?
I want whatever they're on.
They're going over there.
I want to have fun with those people.
It's emanating. So what we have to start, when you start to quantum think, this becomes a way of life, that you start to see the whole system of your life. So if you're looking at, why did I have this terrible experience, rape or whatever it was, child abuse, and you start to see it maybe from the point of your soul, that you needed that lesson for whatever reason, and then later on.
Oh wow! I don't know if I could buy into that, Diane.
But wait a minute. Wait a minute. What's
oh
the
my
alternative?
God! Let's play
What's the alternative?
The alternative. I'll tell you what
the alternative is. You're living in misery for the rest of your life with that memory.
I'll tell you the alternative is to say, something was done and I suffered from it, and let me take that adversity and try to grow, but not that I needed that lesson or I deserved that lesson because I'm a pure heart and a good heart.
Okay, that's
and
good.
And
I think we're really saying the same thing here.
Well, it doesn't sound it. It almost makes me feel like someone with breast cancer is responsible for her cancer. There are so many environmental things and toxins and genetic mutations, quantum thinking wise, that are going on simultaneously. Yes, it would help my healing if I don't fight the medicine and make the best of it, because you know what I think, apropos to your movie concept, is we all come in the middle of the movie and we all leave in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. And
what
I said about maybe your soul needed it. It's not that I'm saying you chose to have, some adversity. But when you look at, the quantum principle that's at the basis of everything is, apart from the divine, for ordinary human beings.
But our time has flown, quantum thinking wise. I want to thank you, Diane, for being a wonderful guest and a great sport and for this inspiring dialogue.
And I want to thank you for the challenge and just remind everyone that it really is, when you master your mind, you do master your life. You master your relationship.
Let's hope. I really have to go to the next. Thank you.
Okay.
Be
Bye-bye.
well. Affirmation of the week. Every angel has a demon to conquer. So, latest medical trends. Babies born at a very low birth rate are more likely to have memory and attention problems when they become adults than babies born at a low to normal weight, according to a study published in Neurology. New research suggests that a calorie-restricted diet higher in protein, mostly from dairy foods, and lower in carbohydrates, and add to that a little daily exercise, and there is a major positive effect on bone health in overweight and obese young women. The nation's largest for-profit nursing homes deliver significantly lower quality of care because they typically have fewer staff nurses than nonprofit and government-owned nursing homes. Parents of newborns show poorer adjustment to their new role if they believe society expects them to be perfect, moms and dads, and this is a study from Ohio University. With the coughing, sneezing, and achy flu season upon us, new recommendations say that even those with egg allergies should receive the flu vaccine. Check with your doctor. Creative people, get a load of this, are more likely to cheat than less creative people, possibly because this talent increases their ability to rationalize their actions, according to research published by the American Psychological Association. And on that note, we come to the close of another show. I have an educational website on stress management totally free. TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. All the radio shows with the guest experts are archived for your listening pleasure. Subscribe to my free newsletter sent to you from TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. You'll have the latest radio show, a fresh new article on stress management, and the health tips fully delineated, emailed directly to you from TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. Have a wonderful week and see you on the radio.